Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
These shows are brought to you by the Open to Hope Foundation in partnership with the Compassionate Friends. Well, Heidi, we've got a great show because it's something we love, which is peer-to-peer support.
Yep.
Just found it so great, and we've got two people who are involved with TAPS and with the Compassionate Friends, and they know a lot about peer-to-peer support, and we're going to be talking to them about that. Because if you've had a loss, sometimes, I'm a therapist, I'm a licensed therapist, and sometimes you get the idea that you have to pay to, or that you have to talk one-to-one with people. And sometimes a group's a pretty good deal.
Right. Well, the thing I love about TAPS and the Compassionate Friends, and we're both very involved because we are both on the advisory board for TAPS, and I'm on the National Board of Directors for the Compassionate Friends, and my mother served for 6 years also. But what I want to say about those two organizations is that I love the idea of people that have walked the journey and that have had the loss, helping other people that have had the loss. Mm-hmm. You know, and the peer-to-peer is so powerful. You know?
And Heidi teaches at Columbia, and one of the, Katherine Shear, who's done a whole project on traumatic grief, one of the things she does is have people tell their story. And a lot, they tell their story a lot. And I will say that her program is fabulous. She's a fabulous woman. But one of the things about this peer-to-peer support thing, particularly with TAPS and the Compassionate Friends, is you get a chance to tell your story over and over. And Heidi, I sometimes tell people, tell your story till it bores you.
Well, yeah, because I think at first telling your story is really emotional, because there's something about putting it out there in front of people that makes it real. You're like, oh my gosh, my brother really did die. He was only 17. This actually happened to me. Mm-hmm. It's weird to tell other people. And then over time, like you said, you start getting used to it. It starts being commonplace, and it kind of changes a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the other thing about peer-to-peer support, which I love, which I know our guests are going to talk about, is the fact that people that have been through this normalize what we're going through. Mm-hmm. So if you go in and say, I'm going crazy, which Mom, I know we both felt like, who am I? I don't recognize myself. I'm going crazy. Mm-hmm. This is too much. And everyone in the group is like, yep, been there, done that, felt the same way. And another thing about it, you can see how far you've come. Yes.
I mean, I do a Compassionate Friends group. We started one in California. And one of the things that you see is people who are newly bereaved come in and you recognize them in yourself. And you're like, wow, I'm not there anymore. You know, so you see that you've come along.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let me talk about our guests, and they will talk more about peer-to-peer support.
And we're going to show a couple of clips, by the way, one of a Compassionate Friends group and one of the things that go on with the tragedy, military tragedy. TAPS.
Tragedy, TAPS. Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. And it is people that have had a military loss.
Yeah.
So, so we're going to speak with Katherine Castelo, and she is a licensed clinical social worker. She just won a very prestigious award at TAPS at their national conference over Memorial Day. I was there.
Hi, Katherine.
Hey, Katherine.
Thank you. So awesome to have you on.
As you know, she works a lot with the military. 3 of her grandparents were in the military, so both her grandfathers and her grandmother, and she is married to somebody that was a former Marine for 10 years. So she knows this community very, very well. And she's worked for many, many years with people that are in the military and for people that have had military loss. And let's see, she's United States Army Reserve Psychological Health Program Director. So welcome, Katherine.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
And we've actually done another show with her too on healing after trauma that you can watch.
Yeah, you can watch that show with her.
Yes.
It's a great show.
And next to her is Jordon Ferber, who is also a former guest on the show. We've had him on many times and on our radio show. Jordon is very involved in the Compassionate Friends, and he received a very prestigious award last year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, the Karen Snepp Outstanding Sibling Award for all the work he's done.
Yep.
He is the chapter leader for the Manhattan chapter.
Co-chapter leader.
Co-chapter leader. And Jordon is the first sibling in history to be the co-chapter leader.
Is that right?
Yes. That's right, Jordon. It's usually, it's always bereaved parents, and Jordon is a bereaved sibling that is leading. I mean, the Compassionate Friends is for siblings and parents and grandparents. But sometimes, siblings tend to get a little bit overlooked in life, and Jordon is making darn sure that he is not overlooked or any of the siblings aren't. He is an amazing advocate for grieving siblings. I love him. And he has a podcast called Where's the Grief?
I try to pronounce it, where's the grief? You know?
And he also, are you still doing that workshop? He does a workshop with Compassionate Friends every year, and I
Yep.
love the name of it. What's the
I
name
do
of
a
it?
workshop called How's Your Mother? Which is the #1 question that bereaved siblings get. People very often ask, how's your mother, without ever asking, how are you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And ironically, my mother came up with the title of that workshop.
I love it. And
And it was too good not to use it. That was the hard part. Was
And
that
as everybody can probably tell by now, Jordon is a stand-up comedian, a stand-up comic in New York City. He does stand-up all over the city. If you want to check him out, go to his website. Right, Jordon?
right? You can go to my website, JordonFerber.com. You can go to my website for the podcast, where'sthegrief.com.
And Jordon, before we get started, I want you to give a plug for what you're doing in your brother's honor.
Yes. So my brother was a pastry chef. He died in a car accident 16 years ago. My family started a foundation in his memory called the Russell Ferber Foundation, and we do a fundraiser for it every year. We have a full 2-year scholarship in the pastry program at the Culinary Institute of America in upstate New York. We also give, we have a fund at the elementary school that the two of us went to, and we do a big fundraiser for it every year at the elementary school. It's a comedy show and a raffle and a silent auction, and highlight of my year for sure. And it's coming up in about a week or so till our 13th annual event. It's our bar mitzvah year. So
I love it. It's
got
a bar
an
mitzvah year, and it's so fabulous that I am actually teaching at Columbia that night, and I'm supposed to end my class at 8. No, I'm ending it early at 7, jumping in a cab and going, because Jordon has the best comedians, and it's such an amazing tribute to your brother, and who died at 21?
At 21, yeah.
21 in a car accident.
Wow.
So I love what you guys do in his honor.
And you know,
I
you
will
can
be
always
there.
go to that website as well, russellferberfoundation.org. We accept donations year-round, and we are looking forward to our 13th annual event, which is coming up, and you can get tickets for that online right now.
All right.
Love it.
Okay, so Jordon, we're going to be showing a clip of what you do at Compassionate Friends. You're not in it, but it's a group, and I wanted people to see. I wanted people to see what a Compassionate Friends group looks like. And Katherine, we're going to show something of TAPS too, because Compassionate Friends is for parents who've lost their child. It's for grandparents, and it is for siblings. And TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for the military, is for anybody who's had a military loss. So there are a lot of dads and moms who have, you know, the lost kids who have lost their dads and moms and people like that.
And friends and fiancés.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of far-reaching, which is pretty amazing.
So we want to talk about the specifics of Compassionate Friends and then move and talk a little bit more about another organization that even brings in more things and gets some of both of your tips and ideas on how to heal and how you feel about peer support. So let's take a look. Jordon, tell us about a Compassionate Friends meeting. You know, what do we do? I mean, a
what's it look
meeting?
like?
Are we just going to have a coffee or what's
Right.
going on?
Well, there are no professionals at any of those meetings. We're all just parents and grandparents and siblings that are there to talk, to share. There's no real advice to give. It really is just about normalizing that conversation, making yourself feel a little bit less crazy, and getting the acknowledgement from other people that what you're going through is a thing. Because it feels like a lot of times when you're just out and about in the world, people don't really acknowledge that what your thing is as legitimate as you think it is.
Right.
People want you to be further along. People think that you should be doing it a certain way. And most of those people don't have that experience, so they don't have a real understanding of what it is.
Siblings are supposed to be more fun anyway. You're younger. You're supposed to be fun all the time and do the parties, you know?
Well,
You're not supposed to get sad, right?
We do that. We just cry at some of those parties.
Yeah, I love it. Okay.
Well, and I think that's good that we cry at some of those parties, because I know that we sometimes feel that we need to be strong for our parents. We need to hide our grief from our parents. And so, you know, when you're in the safety of other siblings, you can kind of let down. And you can also complain about your parents.
Well, that happens regardless. So, you know, I always say in my group, it's hard to deal with your parents because we all know that our own parents are crazy people. And surprise, surprise, this experience did not fix them. So it's still, you know, the same difficulties of dealing with your parents without having gone through a loss, but a bit more heightened because now you're all going through this thing
You're all
together.
crazy together.
Yeah.
Hey, let's take a look at that clip from the Compassionate Friends.
That's what we've been doing for 10 years. A lot of people are there for a funeral or for a week or two. The most important thing you can do is be back in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and be there for the longer period of time. It's easy to do. And we all, probably it's counterintuitive, but what we all want to do is hear our child's name, and we want to hear stories about them.
People making the effort is the biggest part.
People making the
It's
effort.
very isolating, and it's comforting to be isolated and not seek out other people.
And you don't
the
want to get
friend-
lost in that.
Right, you can't get trapped in it. And the friends that won't let you do that are the best friends.
There it goes.
You know, people called, a lot of phone calls, people that just let me talk, because I certainly needed to talk. And let me say the same things over and over again if I need to, until I don't need to say them anymore.
I could call crying and not say a word, or I can call and I'll just repeat the same thing. My daughter died December 30th, and there's 2 people that are still, no matter what time, they're like, I'm here, like, and they mean it.
So, Jordon, there we have it. And I
Yep.
want to ask you, those people that we're talking were just bereaved parents,
Yep.
right? And did they have to talk?
Did they have to? I mean, it's important to give yourself voice, but it's just important to be able to give yourself permission to express yourself.
Right. And I know at the beginning of groups, I mean, when people are new in their grief and they come to groups, sometimes they don't talk.
Yeah.
It's too hard. It's almost like they can't even
Yeah.
talk. And sometimes they'll just sit there and cry at the beginning. And sometimes they'll think, this isn't for me. And I always say, give it 3 times. Because the first time you might feel really overwhelmed, like, wait, I don't want to be part of this world. I don't want to be part of the Compassionate Friends or TAPS, because that means that I've had a permanent loss. It's almost too painful, but give it 3 times before you make a decision.
Yeah. How do we find it, Jordon?
The Compassionate Friends? Well, our Manhattan chapter meets twice a month in the Presbyterian Church on 5th Avenue and 55th Street, 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month. And I believe it's compassionatefriends.nyc is our website. But you can also just go to the compassionatefriends.org website and find a chapter near you. Not all of the chapters around the country have a siblings group, but they should have some support available via phone or via.
But
you
even
want
if
a
it's
meeting.
not a sibling group, you can go, right?
Yeah.
So.
And there's also a Facebook page.
And there's a Facebook
Oh,
page.
yeah, Sons of Siblings.
There's a couple of closed Facebook groups just for siblings.
Yep.
One of them is called TCF Sibs, and one of them is called the Sounds of the Siblings.
And they have it for parents and grandparents blogs.
Yes, they have it for parents and grandparents also.
Yeah.
So go on those and join them, and they're very close. The sibling one is only for siblings. The parent one is only for parents.
Right.
So it's nice.
Yeah. Let's talk about the military TAPS now. And we know who can go. Anybody talk about again who can go to that?
Yeah, so anybody, friends or family of someone who's lost someone in the armed forces, and it doesn't matter the cause of death. So, and they have an extensive program of providing hope, help, and healing. So they have a lot of different programs where, and again, like you're saying, people can connect with other people who understand truly the military culture and their experiences.
And what they've been through. You know, we're going to show this clip right now of some of the things that the military are doing together. I mean, TAPS. I want to say this because Bonnie Carroll is going to be shown on there. It doesn't say it under her name, but Bonnie Carroll was an officer in the military, and her husband was an officer in the military, and he was killed, I guess, in the National Guard, was it?
Yes, Air Force. And he was killed in the plane accident.
Yeah, he was killed in a
Katherine
plane.
probably can even tell us more about
Yeah.
it, because she knows a lot about it.
But just basically what you said, she started
Yes.
the organization based off of that, and it has grown through the years extensively around her own experience building the
Because
support.
she saw that there needed
was
to
a
be a
need.
community of healing, and there wasn't one there. And she received the medal from President Obama, right?
Yes, the Presidential Medal of Honor, and it was started in 1994, TAPS, and it is, like you both have said, has grown, and it's all over the world now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And Bonnie has a lot of kids' activities, a lot going on there. It's free. You just need to get in touch with TAPS and go
There's a
online.
lot for adults and children, and one thing that I love about both TAPS and the Compassionate Friends is they're free. So anybody can afford it, anybody can go, and I think that's really important because, you know, oftentimes when you go to see somebody professionally, especially if they're out of network, it is very expensive. So these are free organizations for everybody.
Right, right. Well, let's see that clip of TAPS, and then Katherine can talk to us a little bit about it.
TAPS has truly a gift in enabling people to connect when they're ready, where they're ready, with people who are ready to travel with them in this grief journey.
I've been to TAPS for 3 years in the Good Grief Camp, and they really do help you. He was just a very, very caring father.
The most important part of TAPS for all the family members is just knowing that they're not alone.
The absolute core of it is the ability for the children to grieve in a safe place.
There is absolutely $0 from the federal government with TAPS. Everything here is voluntarily given, and it's run by the heart.
I was active duty military for 28 years, and I can tell you that when you're deployed overseas in harm's way, just knowing that there's an organization like TAPS, should something bad happen, it provides great comfort.
TAPS honors our fallen heroes by personally getting involved in helping the survivors remake their lives, and I think that makes it special.
Wow, what a great organization. I love that picture of Bonnie that we had there. Heidi, you were just there.
I was there over the or Memorial Day, I mean, because that is their big national conference. And so we do a lot of events and end up in Arlington Cemetery and, you know, have tours, and you're grieving and you're talking about your loss, but you're also having fun. And I think that's why I love both these organizations, because it's okay to take a break and have a good time, and just being in a room full of people that have been where you've been is healing in and of itself.
So, Katherine, I wanted to ask you, when you go to TAPS and do things, what do you see with the peer-to-peer, people talking to each other? You must watch that and see them moving back and forth.
It's quite magical, honestly, to see people who reach out to each other and have that network of support. They really have become like family to each other, and have that support that they offer to each other, and staying where the other person is. And like you said, people, particularly in the military culture, still there's a lot of stigma, so peer-to-peer removes that for them, because they feel really comfortable. That person truly understands where I have been and what I have been through.
You know, we were talking on an earlier show with you about the fact that there is a hierarchy in the military. I don't know, would you call it a hierarchy of loss, Heidi, or what would you call it?
Yes, it reminds me of Compassionate Friends too, like whose grief is worse, whose loss is worse. Oh, and you mean the hierarchy about the way that they died? Yeah. Yes, because there's sometimes people feel like there's more honor if, and I might not be saying this right, if your loved one died in battle. Would you say that there's something going on there with that in the military?
Yes, there's definitely those challenges, because people may feel a little more isolated in their grief, that they don't have as much support or as much you know, backing in their grief, and so then they become, you know, more isolated in it because they aren't reaching out, and there definitely is that that going on within the military.
And sometimes it can even be ironic, because you send your child or your husband or whoever to war, and you're on edge and you're on pins and needles, so they come home and it's so stressful, and then when they're stateside or maybe when they're there, they die, and it's not combat related.
Yeah, they die of cancer, a motorcycle accident,
suicide, whatever it is. It can really blindside you.
Yeah, I'm glad you said the suicide word, Heidi, because
it can blindside you because you're really unprepared. You were more geared up that something might happen when they were in battle.
So I think of peer-to-peer, I'm thinking of somebody whose, say, husband died of cancer or dad died of cancer, can go to TAPS and they can find other people who had the same kind of, and there might even be a workshop about it.
Yes, exactly. And that's the wonderful thing, is they provide educational opportunities within also the ability to have fun and bond and get to know other people, but also there's a lot of education and support resources. They have a significant amount of support resources they offer.
Because you know how kids are. I mean, I can imagine somebody saying, oh, my dad got a medal, and you know, something like that, and having the kind of support where maybe there's another kid over there who comes up to the kid later and says, my dad died of cancer too, or my dad died in an accident too. Yeah, and I think that's what we find at Compassionate Friends too, Jordon, don't you?
100%. The socialization aspect of it is what I think has really been the most impactful for me, is that especially being at like the national conference where there's thousands of people, It's a total immersive experience, and I didn't have to worry about what version of myself I was putting out there.
Yeah.
I was just able to be in a way that I hadn't been able to be before, and it was sort of a path towards me rediscovering who I was and who I wanted to be in the world outside of that, and being able to just communicate with people that you don't have to worry about whether or not you get triggered or you start crying or you start telling a story that, you know, there's so many ways of talking about it within that community that just gives you so much acceptance. People just let you do it the way you want to do it. And I think that was the first time that I really started to see how joy and the rest of my life was going to be filled with things that I was excited about again.
I like that, especially for you, Jordon, because I think being a person that does comedy, a comic,
I know, pretty sad by itself.
Yeah. There's an expectation that Jordan's always going to make us laugh. He's going to be funny. He's going to be in a good mood. He's there to entertain us. And it's almost like, okay, I don't really have the luxury of grieving because professionally, that's, you know, that doesn't work. So to be able to go to Compassionate Friends and say, okay, this is where I'm able to take off the comedy piece and for a little bit.
Right.
And also humor, using humor, I like what you do because you do use humor appropriately with Compassionate Friends to help us know that it's okay to laugh and that this is part of grief.
Right. I always tell people, you know, I go to a support group for bereaved siblings, and that is a great sentence that anyone can use if you feel like you need to get out of a conversation. Usually followed by me being alone with my thoughts again. So.
You know, the suicide word came up.
It
And
did.
I know the military, that is a big thing for the military right now, that they've been working on it a lot and that kind of thing. I would think, I'd love to get your comments on that, but I would also think that having it not a secret and having it talked about, there must be an opportunity for more peer support.
There really is, and I think, you know, TAPS has done an excellent job of bringing that topic of discussion in and providing support around suicide as well, because there is the real challenge still with people talking about it and reaching out, and so removing that stigma around suicide and allowing people to come together, and TAPS has really a lot of support resources around suicide.
What kinds of things are they doing?
They have a whole group where they offer mentor support specifically around suicide. So they'll have specific groups for those who are survivors and have had
And
that
they do
loss.
their retreats. They're just for suicide. Franklin does them. Franklin Cook does them, and Kim Rocco.
And now let me say about Franklin, he's been a friend of ours for years, but his father died by suicide.
Right.
So he is a person who's done a lot of work with suicide and working with the military, but he comes from that experience.
So there'll be retreats specifically for that kind of a loss. And I love that because, again, you walk in and it's like, okay, everybody on some level understands what is unique and different and the challenges around a suicide loss versus maybe another kind of a loss.
Yeah. So how many retreats do they have a year? Do you go to the retreat?
You know, I don't know for sure. I usually am a part of the big one that just happened over Memorial Day. That's their really large events, and but they have several, and they are worldwide. So there are groups going on all over the place at all times.
And Katherine, I think this is a big question people have. Can people be involved with TAPS and do peer-to-peer support and see you as a therapist?
Good question.
Yes.
Can they do both?
Yes, absolutely. Because you know, peer-to-peer support is giving them one thing, but if they're feeling like they're stuck or they need to talk one-on-one to a professional to help them work through an issue, then it makes perfect sense to do both in conjunction with each other. And I've actually had mentors and peers be the one who's said, okay, you need to go get help now because you know, I see you are really struggling. And so that mentor or peer has been able to help them, and even help them get connected with a therapist. So.
I was going to ask you that, how people get connected with you. Is it usually they've been to TAPS and they're then referred? Somebody will see that maybe they need a little more support? Yes.
So generally, when they're coming to me, it's TAPS has referred them to me. And the other thing is I will work with people all over. So because there are people in rural places who maybe, or people with schedules that it's just quite frankly not going to work to go into a professional office.
And you Skype too.
Yes, we Skype.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can I live out of the state and far away and still see you?
Yes.
Oh, this is good to know.
And we can, and I have been flexible with hours to work with people.
So, but they can work with you privately or through TAPS. So tell us, give us your private website.
Oh, well, I'm with Awaken Wellness Center. That's my
Awaken Wellness Center.
Awaken Wellness Center, yes, and that's my private center. It's awakenwellnesscenter.com.
Okay.
And and then with TAPS, a lot of times they will refer to the best, most appropriate resource, obviously, for the person who needs it.
So if you want to, if you have had a military loss or a family member who has, and you can get a hold of it through TAPS.org, right?
Yes, that's right. TAPS.org.
Good, good. Okay, Jordon, I want you to give us your best piece of advice for somebody who.
My best what?
Piece of advice for somebody who's had a loss.
Oh, well, I think, you know, I have this podcast that I do. My main goal with the podcast is to get people to stop beating themselves up for how they naturally feel about things. I think we spend a lot of time trying to, you know, negotiate or mitigate the people in our lives that tell us, or outside forces that tell us how we should be or shouldn't be dealing with things. And at the end of the day, it's really it's such a natural process for ourselves. I think we stand in our own way a lot. And we spend a fair amount of time shaming ourselves for how we naturally feel or how we are naturally going through something. And I think it's just really important to give yourself permission to be a mess for a while. Give yourself permission to be upset, to be sad. Also give yourself permission to be joyful and be excited about things that you have coming up. And it's really hard to do both of those things. I think that we really, when we start to give ourselves that permission to do it however we do it, as long as we're not hurting ourselves or anyone around us, however we're doing it is how we're doing it. There's no blueprint for this. And you know, I think it's just very difficult to find a place where you can start moving forward in your life again while carrying a lot of that stuff forward with you.
So it's important to go to a group and come to the National Conference of Compassionate Friends.
Certainly come to the National Conference.
It's a great place to meet Jordon, and Heidi and I will be there this summer, and it's every July, so you know, make sure you come and reach out to TAPS if you had a military loss. And thank you guys for being on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
You're amazing people.
Absolutely. Thank you for all the work you're doing to help so many people find hope. And I think these two organizations are so phenomenal.
I do too. They're absolutely amazing. Well, Heidi, what a couple of great guests, right?
Yes, they're fabulous.
So much fun to have friends on.
It is.
And
they're doing good work.
They are. We want to thank everybody for watching our show today. And Heidi and I want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours till you find your own. And we also want to say to you, if you have friends or family who've had a loss, please have them come to our site at opentohope.com, where we've got thousands of articles. We've got radio shows, television shows, podcasts. What else we got going, Heidi?
Quiz.
I know.
I think we
webinars, and we're going to be doing one with TAPS next week or something like that, or next month. I'm not sure when it is.
In August 23rd.
Yeah, August 23rd. So anyway, thanks again for watching the show. And as I said, Heidi and I want to remind you, if you've lost hope, lean on ours till you find your own, and God bless.